Hello out there, fellow Youtubians. This is your long-absent Yiddish teacher. Upon reflection, after 15 lessons in Basic Yiddish, I can no longer in good conscience call my classes Basic Yiddish. You got all the basic elements. Further elaboration would not be helpful. So instead, I'm going to be teaching intermediary Yiddish for those who either know Basic Yiddish well enough on their own or who have taken my 15 classes and have got the basics as I was able to render them. So, I don't want to be preaching to you religious sermons, even though there are plenty of those written in Yiddish. There's a wealth of those. So instead, I'll read you stories written and recorded by Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, Zitzal. Of Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, of blessed memory, the 6th Chabad rabbi. The portrait you see behind me is of his son-in-law, the 7th Chabad rabbi, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. Now, these are stories that he wrote down in his personal diary, that is Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, the 6th, from when he was old enough to write, and he recorded the oral history given over to him by his father, the 5th Chabad rabbi, Rabbi Shalom Ber, known as the Rashab, and also as the Rambam of Chabad Hasidus, because he systematized and expounded the teachings of Chabad Hasidus in a way similar to how the Rambam, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, expounded and organized the oral Torah written down in the Talmud in a very rambling and disorganized manner. So, let me get started with Lubavitcher Rebbe's Zichronis, it's called. The Lubavitcher Rebbe's Memoirs. Die Stadt von Menschen Liebe. The city of the people of Liebe. Nicht da kimat kein Stadt. There is almost no city, other Städtel or village in ganz Europa, in the whole Europe, was soll nicht sein, wherever it might be. That's idiomatic. Soll nicht sein means wherever it might be, but literally it translates as where it should not be. Verbunden mit dem irdischen Over, which is not, there is no city, wherever it might be, which is not bound up with the Jewish past, oder the Yiddische Gegenwart, or the Jewish present. Was soll nicht haben zu erzählen a Stück Yiddische Geschichte, which doesn't have to tell a little bit of Jewish history on wo de Steiner, and in which the stones on the Erd and the earth sollen nicht sein durchgeweicht, which are not soaked mit Yiddish blood, with Jewish blood, or Yiddische Tränen, or Jewish tears. Blois de Nemen von gewisse Städt, only the names of certain cities, und Städtlich and villages, rufen arois, call up, Erinnerungen, memories, und Leben and life, for us, auf die Gestalten of the characters, von lichtige Yiddische, from the luminaries of Jewish Verruhenlichkeiten, which is a compound which doesn't make any sense to me, via similarities, which individually I broke it down for you, the root and the prefix, but it doesn't make much sense to me, nor apparently to the translator, because he just skips the words. So whatever if anybody out there in Utopia knows what Verunlichkeiten means, don't be afraid to tell me. I'm not so proud I can't ask for help. And I'm certainly not an absolute master of this language, if there is any such a person. Okay, they call the illumination of Jewish Verunlichkeiten, whatever that is, was haben sich ausgezeichnet, which made its mark in Meshech von Deres, in the length of generations, mit their Torah, with their Torah, und their Maisim Tovim, and their good deeds. Other mit their Martyrertum, or their martyrdom. Jede Stadt und Städtel, every city and village, hat sich ihr eigenem Kapitel, has its own chapter in der jüdischer Geschichte, in Jewish history. Now this particle sich, literally translated, means itself, and it can be used in a lot of ways to make a verb reflexive, or just to mean itself. Keep your eyes and ears open for it. It has 1,001 uses, the particle sich, and you'll get the hang of it. What can I say? It's hard to explain very well. Voran Städt und Städtlich, there are cities and villages, was stellen mit sich, which stand with itself, for ganze Bewegungen, for entire movements, und ganze Perioden and entire periods in Yiddischen Leben, in Jewish life. As a Stadt, such a city, besser gesagt, or better to say, Städtel, a village, is euch Lubavitch, is the city of Lubavitch in Belarusia, welche is in Meshech von 102 Jahr, which was in the period of 102 years, und 2 Chodoshim, and 2 months precisely, given der Sitz, was the seat von 4 Deres, of 4 generations, Chassidic Rebbeim, of Chabad Rebbes. Und der Center von das Chabadische Chassidus, and the center of Chabad Chassidus, mit 100,000 Nachfolger, with hundreds of thousands of followers, über ganz Russland, in the entire Russia, und andere Länder, and other lands. And so it is till this day, perhaps more than hundreds of thousands. In Ganzen, in holy, is das Chabadische Chassidus, this Chabad Chassidus, von welcher der alte Rebbe Schneur Zalman Zal, it's entirely from the what's known as the old Rebbe. In Hebrew we say Admur HaZaken, and in Yiddish the alte Rebbe, the old Rebbe, the senior Rebbe, Rabbi Schneur Zalman Zal, the Rabbi Schneur Zalman, the Bala Tanya, who wrote down the book of the Tanya, is given der Gründer. He is the founder, 175 Jahre alt. It is 175 years, 170 years old. That is at the time of this writing in the 1940s. It's now well over 200 years old. Das meint, This means as 72 Jahr, that 270 years und 10 Chadashim and 10 years. I'm sorry. As 72 Jahr, that 72 years and 10 months hat Chabad gehat its center. Had the Chabad movement had its center on the Shvu, in another place, other hat Poshut abgericht Golus, or had simply had to endure exile. Kor in Anfang, in the beginning, the Chabad movement, it is given Lyozna, in the city of Lyozna. Lyozna is Chabad praktisch geboren geworden. Lyozna was where Chabad was actually born, the Chabad movement. A little word here about the Chabad movement. It is a approach towards Chassidic teachings which emphasizes using your intellect to awaken your emotions of love and fear of God, and to use that as the engine to motivate you in the service of God through doing Torah and mitzvahs. So, that started in the city of Lyozna. Später is es geworden Liadi, and then it became based in Liadi when the Baal HaTanya, the Alter Rebbe, the Admor HaZaken, moved to Liadi, welche is mehr wie welche andere Stadt, which is more than any other cities, verbunden mit Nomen von dem alten Rebben. Connected to the name of the Alter Rebbe, who was also known as Shneur Zalman Liadi. That's Shneur Zalman from Liadi. Von Yud Cheshvan, from the 18th of the month of Cheshvan, which approximately corresponds to November in the Jewish calendar, Tov Reish Ayin Vav of 1915, in Meshech von dem vorigen Weltkrieg, in the continuance of the previous World War. In other words, the First World War. This was written at the tail end, this was published at the tail end of the Second World War. When Lubavitch hat gemusst evacuiert werden, when the city of Lubavitch had to be evacuated. I don't know, there was some fighting between the Tsar and the Kaiser's soldiers, and they evacuated everybody so that they could kill each other at leisure without having any collateral damage. And I thought that was an overriding concern in the First World War. It just was good manners, I suppose. And then when my father, meaning the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory, hat mit der ganze Rebbischer Mishpacha, had to, with his entire rabbinical family, gemusst auswandern, had to wander out. Is schon Lubavitch mehr nicht der Sitz von der Rebbeim. The city of Lubavitch no longer was the seat of the Rebbeim und der center von Chabad, and the center of Chabad. Aber der Nomen Lubavitch, but the name Lubavitch, wird ständig bleiben verbunden. The name Lubavitch constantly is connected mit das Chabadische Chassidus, with Chabad Chassidus, und wird ständig der Wecken, and will constantly awaken diese Erinnerungen, sweet memories, und mit sich verstellen and will, with it, set up a herrlich Kapitel, a wondrous chapter of Yiddish Geschichte, of Jewish history. Parenthetically, let me add this to the text, that the fifth Chabad Rebbe, when the communists were on the cusp of taking over the entire Russia and establishing the Soviet Union, became very sick from grief and sadness, and passed away, leaving the author of these memoirs, the sixth Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, Zitzal, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, that's an acronym for, or the memory of the righteous be blessed, as the Rebbe. And in 1927, he was imprisoned and tortured. And in the end, due to diplomatic pressures, he was freed on the 12th of Tammuz of that year. Tammuz is approximately July or August, depending on the year. Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar, which wanders around a bit, and relative to the solar calendar that people are used to in other parts of the world. Anyway, they freed him from prison on condition that he immediately leave the Soviet Union. So he moved to Riga and applied for and got citizenship there, and became very active in Poland, and in fact was escorted out of the country by a Nazi officer because the diplomatic pressure by the United States compelled them, in order to keep up good relations with the United States, with whom Germany was not then at war, to bring the Rebbe and as many of his disciples and family as he could get with him to America, where he arrived in 1940. I believe the first edition of this book here, was written in 1945. Let me just make sure. No, 1947 it was published. So that was right after World War II ended. This is as much as I have time for today. I had to do a few takes before I got the hang of this again, since it's been a while. But I think that I've given you something that you can use. If you think otherwise, feel free to complain for me. I can't make it better if nobody tells me. And as I said, I'm not proud. Thank you very much, and God bless.